Hello and welcome to the very first to the Girls of Bulbarrow Hill podcast. I'm Ishka, I'm a seer and an intuitive, and I'm here with my friend Amanda, who is a very talented astrologer and trained shaman and psychic. And we go out and work together in the field and do spiritual work. And this podcast is going to be about the sort of stuff that we get up to. So you're probably wondering why we're called the Girls of Bulbarrow Hill. And it's one of those weird things that sort of ended up just happening, in that I came down to Dorset way, way, way before I knew Amanda. And that was quite a weird thing in itself because I'd been guided there through a stone I found on a beach with something written on it, which is another long story. And as I was driving to the place, very near to where I was going, I drove past Bulbarrow Hill. And for some reason, I just felt this really strong connection with it and didn't know why. And it always stuck in my head. And I just knew that I would go there one day and that it was going to be important. And never really forgot about it. It was almost like the sign, the road sign was like burnt into my brain. It was really odd. And you had a really similar experience, didn't you, Amanda?
Yes, I did, Ishka. So I was living in South Sea at the time, and I had a little girl, and I thought I'd love to bring her up in the country somewhere. So I was wanting to go to Devon, but it was too far for my husband to travel. So we went to Dorset stayed in a pub for a weekend just to look at Dorset, and I saw the name Bulbarrow Hill, and I said to my husband, "Let's take our basset hound for a walk there with the baby." And as soon as I touched that ground, I felt so drawn to the area. And we bought a house in the village there. And yes, wow, never would have I expected what was going on in the
What
area.
would end up happening? And
No,
by really strange coincidence, again, Amanda and I met really randomly. We met on the internet, didn't we? And when I ended up coming down to see you, the very first place we went to do any work was Bulbarrow
Bulbarrow
Hill.
Hill,
Yeah.
yeah,
And not through choice, but through,
just happening,
design.
wasn't
Yeah,
it? Yeah,
divine design. And yeah, the rest is history. So, it's kind of aligned itself.
it's beautiful. And I have to say how grateful I was when I found you, because of what was starting to happen in the area, particularly in Bulbarrow Hill for me. And that is the beginning of our sort of quest really to help.
Yeah, and it's turned into quite an adventure. So each episode in the podcast is going to be one piece of work we've done, unless we get sidetracked because we're quite quite good at going off on a tangent, aren't we? So
Yeah,
that might happen.
yeah, yeah,
So excuse us if it gets random, but it will come back to what we're talking about.
yeah.
And So today we're going to talk about Culliford Tree Barrows, which is a big Bronze Age barrow cemetery in Dorset, in South Dorset. And so it's a Bronze Age barrow cemetery of round and long barrows. And most of the barrows range from about 2500 BC to about 800 BC. There is also a Neolithic bank barrow, so much, much older, as part of the site. And while we were there, we also saw and heard things that would also link it to the Iron Age,
Yeah.
which is 200 BC to about 200 AD. So kind of pushing into the Roman occupation of
Yep.
Britain. And we didn't know any of this, did we, when we
No,
went there? We had absolutely no flipping idea of any of this backstory of this place. We'd never been there.
no.
It was an amazing place, though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's got some really cool folklore around it.
Oh,
So the name Culliford comes from Culvardestra, which means the land of Colvard, which is a Saxon personal name. So obviously, even though there was already long barrows, there was already barrows there and Neolithic bank barrows there, and Bronze Age round barrows as well. It was obviously at some point the land of a Saxon landholder and called Culliford. And that's really interesting because of what we saw when we were there, which we will get back to further in the podcast. But there's some lovely, lovely folklore around it. So the locals, I love the local because the locals always have a bit more knowledge. I think there's a really interesting saying that something like all myth and legend holds an element of truth more chilling than the reality we've come to terms with or whatever. And I love this folklore. So it is said that on the tree barrow specifically, so the one very large prominent one that's in an open field, because they're spread between woodland, they're spread across two open fields, there's a road go through it. I mean, they're just amazing, amazing things. The other word for the tree barrow itself is the music barrow. So the locals call it the music barrow. And the folklore suggests that if you put your ear to the apex of the largest barrow with the tree coming out of it, at midday, you can hear fairy music.
Well, we'll have to go back.
I think is amazing. We knew none of this, did we? Which is really apt. Because obviously I've had to look into it and gone, where is this place for the podcast? And gone, oh my God.
That's amazing.
Yeah, this fits in so much with what we saw. So how did we end up at Culliford Tree Barrows?
Well, I was having my coffee and I had a little text from somebody, yourself, to say, quick detour to the beach. I've been guided that we need to get to this place.
Yeah. So we were supposed to be going for a walk on the beach, weren't we? Because the beach is like this particular beach we both love.
Yeah.
I went there every summer when I was a little girl, and it's somewhere you go now. You live down there as well.
Yeah.
And it was another random connection of ours. And I was like, oh, before I go home, I'm gonna go for a walk there. And you were up for it, weren't you? And then as I was getting ready, Gwyn ap Nuith came in and he was like, actually, while you're there, can you just, as these things do happen
on the way,
and sort of showed me the Barrow Cemetery in my mind's eye. And so I thought, well, where the hell's that? So
I got a text and a map saying meet me here.
Yeah. So I googled Google Maps and looked up, where's a Barrow Cemetery on the way where I'm going, and sure enough, there it was. And when obviously the pictures come up, don't they? And it was exactly how Gwen had shown it to me. So you got a notification that I was detouring and decided to join me, didn't you?
Yeah, of course.
Absolutely. Thank God.
Yeah, no.
Thank God, because it got a bit spicy at one point.
It was a little bit, and as I've learnt, never to expect anything. Just go and see what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. And I think as long as you're respectful and, act in the moment and, you're not a dick, it's okay. No. So we didn't even know why we were going, did we?
No, we didn't. No idea.
Yeah, we managed not to get lost, which was quite good.
It was amazing for me because you sent me a map and I'm thinking, what, where, how do I get there?
Yeah.
But we found each other really easily.
I know, cool. Thank God. Which is probably a much relief to Gwyn, who probably despairs at times, doesn't he? So we pulled up in the lay-by opposite where you park to go in, where the footpaths are. And the very first thing that happened was this blimmin' farmer pulled up, didn't he?
Have you seen my lost calf?
Yeah. Oh, you've lost a calf. Yeah. And we were like, okay. I wonder what that means. I've lost my baby calf. It's probably I don't know, symbolic of something, isn't it?
Yeah.
But we didn't think too much of it because we were a bit taken aback, weren't we, of him kind of like almost curb crawling, but for cows along the road. Yeah, really. I mean, he had a little hatchback, so how he was going to quite fit a calf in the back of a car, but
Yeah,
maybe that's how you roll in Dorset. I don't know.
yeah, they are quite relaxed, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Well, maybe the dog laws don't apply. You can't have a dog unrestrained in the car, but maybe you can have a
The
cow.
calf, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, as you
I
do.
might use that to my advantage one day. Quite fancy that. Um, And so we were trying to follow the OS map to try and find the right of way, weren't we?
Yeah,
Because you didn't want to go like traipsing around trespassing or whatever.
no.
So yeah, we were looking for the right of way that went into the wooded barrows because Gwyn
Mm.
had wanted us to go to that one first, and we went the wrong way as usual. This is a theme. This will emerge over the podcast episodes, won't it? And so we went the wrong way into what we thought was the footpath.
Mm.
And literally, as soon as we stepped onto the ground on that side of the road, we ran straight into a
Yeah.
skeleton, didn't we?
And of an animal that had curled up and died. And I
Mm,
was like, wow, the death, you could just feel death. And
yeah,
it's almost, I felt like I was trespassing going over the energy,
yeah.
but it
It was like
allowed
a
us to go in.
warning, wasn't it?
Mm,
Yeah, it was like
mm.
a doe skeleton or something,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
My heart just, I went into another space of grief
Mm,
straight away as soon as we
yeah.
stepped over.
And there was sort of this that became a bit of a thing as we were walking in, didn't it? Because as we were
Mm.
when we finally found the right way in and we were walking on the public footpath, we came across, well, in the air
Yeah.
was a load of crows attacking this poor
One
other
crow.
crow,
Mm.
wasn't it?
Yeah,
And
it
they were
was,
literally trying to peck it to death, weren't
yeah.
they?
It was quite disturbing, actually, wasn't it? I mean, they were dive bombing this poor one crow that was desperately trying to save itself, and it
Mm,
was exhausted, and it was just above our heads. It wasn't too high, was it? It's just
yeah.
above.
And I think it was very much a kind of warning, wasn't it? It
Mm.
was very much like, don't come in here.
Yeah, it
But
didn't feel.
Gwyn was quite insistent, wasn't he, that we
Mm-mm,
should,
mm-mm,
but we need to approach it in the right way. And so we walked up to the largest barrow
mm,
in the wooded area. I mean,
mm.
they're enormous, aren't they? They're like
Huge.
the Sutton Hoo ship burial, aren't they? And then
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
massive. They're not the round ones, but the other ones.
Quite awe-inspiring.
Yeah, absolutely
Yeah.
massive. Um, and um, and literally, I
Mm,
mean, we didn't go up to it, we didn't stand on it
mm,
because it felt very there was a very strong, to me, a very strong
mm,
Saxon feeling,
mm,
even though, I mean, we had no idea of the age of the barrows at the time or anything like that. But for me, I could definitely sense a very strong Saxon
mm.
energy.
But you didn't
And
say anything. You didn't
no, because
say anything about it being Saxon.
no.
And it was when that girl appeared, and I was explaining to you, there's a girl with a thick tunic with a
Mm,
cross, and she's
mm,
got long, long hair, and she's here because her father's here.
yeah,
And you said, well, that's because it's Saxon. I said, oh, okay, because it helps me understand what I'm seeing.
yeah,
That you have all this knowledge. I mean, your knowledge is amazing. And it sort of grounds in what I'm seeing. And then she was able to communicate that she
yeah.
couldn't leave. Um,
Yeah, because the first thing that happened, wasn't it? We were kind of just trying to get a feel of the place, weren't we? And
yeah.
obviously, you were starting to see things, and I was
Mm,
starting to get a feel of
mm,
the most urgent energy, because I almost see the energy in layers. So the Saxon, I felt the Saxon first. And
mm,
so to me, it's almost like I've got to deal with that
mm.
before and then I can see the next lot. It's
Yeah,
almost like I see it like layers, and until one's gone, I can't see the other one.
yeah.
But the very first thing that happened is we stood there and we were just trying to get a measure of it. And I felt this really tall energy behind me. And I had a feeling, I thought I knew what it was because I knew I could sense Saxon energy, and with Saxon mounds, this is what you get. But you could see him, couldn't you? And what could you
Well, I
see?
have never in my life seen this before. It was the tall white, really tall, and he came from the tree where the birds were fighting straight up behind you. And
Hmm.
I was like, oh, you've got a big, massive white being behind you. You said, I know. And I was so surprised that you knew what I was seeing. And he
Yeah.
was straight behind you.
I was expecting it because as soon as I felt the Saxon energy, I knew that there was a possibility there was going to be barrow-wights. So barrow-wights are also known as dracons, which is guardians, which means guardian. Is one of the places we get our word dragon from,
Oh,
of guarding a hoard, of sitting on top
wow.
of a mound. It's the same sort of thing, but they are uh, energetic beings. They're not spirits of people.
No.
They're very different. They are an energetic being that is there to guard the burial mound, and to keep its dignity.
Mm.
And they can be extremely dangerous.
Well,
You
when you
really,
said,
yeah,
"Oh, okay," and when you were saying, Ushka, uh, okay, I'm not quite sure. Okay, they can be a bit tricky, and you were a little bit hesitant. And because I saw them as these very tall white things, I just assumed that they were pure. But when you explained to me what they were about, it's like, okay, I
yeah,
shall.
got to be careful because you need to be super, super respectful. And certainly, I would never, ever recommend that if you are not very, very experienced and have very, very good protection and guardian
Mhm.
spirits, or deities, that you ever deal with barrow-wights, ever. Um, but
Well, I
it's
won't.
something that I've had before.
Mm.
So not in that situation, in a totally different situation, actually. But I just want to make sure we're still recording because we've had a glitch. No, we are still recording. So um, yeah, I just had to sort of explain to him because barrow-wight's main concern is that you're going to violate the the burial mound, either
Mm.
the person's burial or to steal or to just be disrespectful. And so I mean I had no intention of going over to the barrow itself anyway.
No.
Um, and even more so once a barrow-wight arrived. And again, that's kind of indicative of what you would expect in a Saxon king or a Saxon landowner's burial, which is interesting. Then we found out later that it was, so I wonder if it was Colvard was buried in the top, because sometimes the Saxons used to open up Bronze Age burial mound and kind of pop their people in the top because it saved them a job. So
Yeah.
and reuse them. So I wonder if that particular mound had Colvard in it, or someone like that. Um,
Which is amazing that you because I saw the white being and you were able to explain, and he came from the area of the tree where the black crows were fighting. He
Yeah,
shot. I
because
mean, you did
all
take.
warnings, he's just trying to warn,
Mhm.
and then he's like, oh God, I'm gonna have to get involved.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Right.
So he's come up and he's sort of intimidating.
Yeah, he was.
And, I've just explained to him out loud. I've said, look, I'm told to come here
Mm-mm.
to see if there's anything we can do to help. We're not here to steal anything. We're
Mm.
not here to, disrespect the burial
Mm.
space. We're not going to come any closer.
Mm.
And he decided then, didn't he? I
Mm.
don't know why I'm saying he. I just always assume barrow-wights are a male, but they're an energetic being, so I suppose they don't really have a. But I don't know. I guess it's because they're so big and
Mm.
intimidating. I don't know. I always refer to them as he. And he was kind of like then he didn't say anything, but it was almost like,
You just calm down.
yeah,
That's what
he
I
was like,
felt. But you're
okay,
still there. I'm
yeah.
still going to be here because you're still
Yeah, it was
behind
like
you.
watch and wait, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. He sort of decided then that he was just gonna see before he did
Mm.
anything.
Mm.
So he just stood, he didn't back off, did he? But he just
No.
stood in the same place, but he didn't take any action. He was
And then I
kind of
felt your energy. You calmed down because you were quite
yeah.
anxious when we were first
Yeah,
aware of
well,
it.
I
And then,
think I think when you're
yeah.
dealing with barrow-wights, you have to deal with the situation and explain to them quite quickly. And you have to
Thank
make
God.
sure you don't do anything, even unintentional,
Yeah.
that can cause offense because,
Yeah.
they're extremely powerful. And they've been put there by the people who did the burial. They've
Okay.
been that, something's an incantation or something has been done to draw them there and to bind them to that
Yeah.
area to do that job. And they do it extremely effectively.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's certainly not something that you want to toy with or
Well,
get
it's good to
wrong.
know. And luckily I
Yeah.
was with you because
Yeah.
I would have had no idea.
Yeah. So you don't mess with it and you don't even unintentionally. So you have to be super aware. And I guess I just became really hyper aware of my actions and making sure that I didn't accidentally disrespect the space.
Yeah, yeah.
And I know that we don't anyway, but
No,
just being like hyper vigilant
yeah,
about
of
it
course.
really. And once I knew that he was almost going to give us a chance
Mm.
to listen to what we were going to say
Mm-hmm.
before he decided what to do. I was like, okay, we've got some breathing space here. So at that point, you could obviously see this Saxon girl.
Yeah.
Um, and you could also hear something, though, couldn't you, really loudly? It was like some sort of horn.
Oh yes, I forgot about that. Yes, the I was saying, what is this sound? And I was trying to translate it to you because I couldn't obviously make the noise of musical instrument.
But it sounded like a horn.
It did. I said it's like a horn, and straight away you understood what I was saying because it was so loud.
Yeah. So because obviously we didn't know the age of the long barrows, and I felt Saxon, and I knew that the Saxons, because of my strange interests I have, I knew that Saxons sometimes opened other older burial mounds and
Mm.
put their people in there. That then, if you were hearing a horn,
Mm.
that would be very likely to be Iron Age. So to me, as soon as I thought that, I saw in my mind's eye a Carnix. Um, and I showed you, didn't I? I got a picture up of a Carnix and I said on like, Googling and said, I
Mm.
think it's one of these.
Mm.
And we found a YouTube video, didn't we, with someone
Music.
playing one.
And that was exactly it. That was the
Yes.
same noise. And as soon as you played that, it stopped playing. It's like,
Yes.
it was
So
amazing.
it's almost like they were trying to get our attention. It was like,
Yeah.
well, the Saxon girl's here, but also we're here,
Yeah.
and there was other stuff going on, wasn't
Yeah.
there? It was almost like they were starting, it was almost like they were watching and they were like, well, what are they going to do? Oh, okay, they're not here to steal anything or to trample all over us in a disrespectful way. Oh, this is interesting. Okay, let's start showing ourselves to
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Identify. Well, it was less showing because it was more identifying.
I
So it's
felt like we were able to move into the story a bit more.
yes.
It was like it was opening up and we were able to then connect with what was going on.
So as soon as we played the Carnix loudly, and I've had this before actually, in a wood near where I used to live, where I played a Carnix and the same thing happened. So it almost called them out to it. It was almost like a beacon signal. So we played the Carnix sound, didn't we? And then all these people started to come, didn't
They did. They
and
did.
what did the
From the
people
woods.
look like?
So there was a sort of a plateau behind the barrow, and there was about 20 of them, 30, and they looked like little people, and they're all jumping up and down, shouting, "Hey, we're here, we're here!" And they were asking for something, and I couldn't quite hear. They were lovely, and they told me they lived in the woods behind. And then on the barrow that we were looking at, there was a man with a boy. They popped the head round to look at us. They were checking out who we were, and I think it was father and son, but they were in just a cloth, quite dirty. And they were just more interested with what was going on with the noise and the horn. And then the girl started talking, saying she was crying. It was her duty to look after her father, who was buried. And she was just heartbroken. She was in a loop of grief. She was so beautiful with her long hair. To me, she looked about 14. I don't know what age she was, but she was young. And that she was told that she had to, her duty was to look after her father. So when he died, it was her job to be with him and his soul, and that he had not moved on, and she was waiting for him. So I was able to say that to you, so that then you were able to then, amazingly, you got their language, you understood, you can talk their language in Saxon, wasn't it? And you started saying.
Yeah, so this is when the kind of more complicated element of moving earthbound spirits on becomes involved, because there's many different ways you can go about it, but certainly when you're working with very traumatized spirits, some of them will be stuck for particular reasons. Some of them, there's lots of reasons, but this particular girl was because she, I wonder whether, do you think she knew she was dead?
I think she did.
Right.
But her father, she was waiting for her father to come out, and he
he'd
hadn't.
gone. Yeah. She
And
didn't understand that she needed to leave to
and
do that.
I just wanted to cry. Her grief was just,
Yeah.
it was just all, it was overpowering. And in the meantime, you've got this big white being standing behind you. People peering out, and these little beings, I don't know what they were, jumping up and down.
Well, they were like fae, weren't they?
I
Were like
think they
little
might have been,
fairies, weren't they? They were very, very, they were almost a bit like brownies, but more sturdy and
that's it.
hairier.
Yes, they were.
I've not come across them.
Jumping up and down, very excited.
Yeah, they were nice. They weren't boggarts. It was really, I don't know what they were. I'm going to have to do a bit more research and find out what they were. But yeah, so this is where, doing psychopomp work, or some people call it death walking. I don't really like that expression of moving on spirits becomes complicated, because not only have you got to work out why they're unable to move on and the reason behind that, and reassure them and explain to them and work through it. So you're almost like a sort of a counselor type role in a way. But also in circumstances like this, and because it's what I do specifically, it's kind of like my specialism of kind of the ancient sites, is a lot of the time they can't actually understand what you're saying. If they haven't gone into the light, so they're not working on a soul level, they're still their human incarnation effectively, although in soul form. A lot of the time they only speak the language. They can express to you and show you pictures and express to you emotions and
I
things.
just got the emotion. I was just flooded with her emotion.
So you can understand it from a intuitive point of view, what's actually going on. But actually, if you need to have a conversation with them, they won't understand what you're saying if you're speaking modern English. So, I've had this before where I've had to speak in Old English, in Anglo-Saxon, in order for them to do the work, basically. And this is where, it sometimes, not always, but sometimes this work is a lot more complicated in situations like this, which is why, I do this sort of thing, because I find it really interesting. And so because I'd previously done it, I sort of had like a rough outline of what I needed to say in Anglo-Saxon English to move her on. But because also she had this added element of grief and waiting for her father, but he clearly gone, and she didn't understand, what she needed to do in order to join him. Good old Google Translate has Old English. I was able to add some extra bits on to what I would normally say to an Anglo-Saxon to move them on and get it just right for her.
I loved it when you did it. I absolutely loved it. It was just magical, because she turned around and looked at you.
Yeah.
And was hearing you, because she was just in this loop of where's my father,
Yeah.
And then I loved it when you started going, go up, because you opened the portal, go up, because she was listening, and then you were pointing up. And I loved what you said in the Anglo-Saxon. Can you remember any of those words? It was
no, I mean, I keep it on my Google Notes, but it was something about I was trying to explain to her, because obviously we then asked, I think we used Archangel Michael, didn't we, to open a portal for her specifically,
Yeah.
because of her dress and how you described it.
Yeah.
She, it was likely that she was from the pagan early Christian kind of,
Yeah.
she might have been an early Christian. So she would have
They were showing me a cross on her
understood,
tunic.
yeah, she would have understood the concept of heaven,
Yeah.
which is Heofen in
Oh,
Anglo-Saxon.
okay.
And so I was obviously I had to explain to her in Anglo-Saxon that that her father had already left and that it was time for her
Yeah.
to join him and that she needed
Mm.
to go into the light that had appeared that she could see. Did you see the portal in those
Yeah. Yeah.
circumstances? Could you see it?
No, but I'm aware of it energetically.
Yes, you can
I can
feel it.
feel
Yeah.
it
See, I
when you
feel
did that.
them, but I don't see them. Yeah. And so
Yeah.
I was sort of trying
And
to
because she
explain,
looked,
yeah, I was trying to explain to her that she needed to go into the light because that was heaven. So that's why I was sort of gesticulating at her and saying something Heofan. I can't remember exactly what it was. It's on my Google Notes because I sort of if I remembered all the things for all the
but
different
you
sites.
used your arms and you were going up
Yeah.
and
Yeah, and I sort of explained to her about going into the light and this sort of thing.
yeah.
And so what did she do at that point? Because obviously I'm not seeing, I'm just feeling. So what did you see at that point?
It was beautiful.
So what did she do when she left then? What did you actually see?
So instead of she was in her loop, crying for her father. She stopped crying, and then she looked at your hands going up, and she looked up. She was aware of that, the portal that was open.
Yeah.
And she looked up, and I saw her father looking down. Oh my! And the joy, it was just. I just wanted to burst into tears. It was beautiful, and she went shot up, and was gone. And then the being behind you shot back
Yeah, because
to where
he
that
was,
tree was with the crows.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
felt like we came back to
yeah. And then, but then we had these sort of,
and it,
oh, sorry, carry on.
that's okay. So when he shot back, she'd gone up, and then I felt like we just landed on an empty space with a hill,
Yeah,
except for those little brownies jumping up and down.
yeah, but they were they like lived there, didn't they? They didn't want to go anywhere. They were like, no, this get off my
No,
land.
no,
But no,
no,
but
we
they were
lived.
very
Yeah,
friendly.
yeah,
And
they
then,
were like we lived at the back.
but the barrow-wight had kind of stayed, hadn't he? But because he was
Yeah,
like bound, right? So
yeah,
we'll come back to him at the end. So then we had the boy and the man still standing. They were standing on the top of the barrow,
yeah.
weren't they?
They
And they were
yeah,
pretty much almost naked, weren't they?
yeah. They had they were covered in mud. They were filthy. They were like how you imagine cave people. That's what I saw with a spear.
Well, it's interesting you say that because one of at least there's a Neolithic bank barrow there. So which is the
Wow.
new Stone Age. It's not as old as the Mesolithic.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean there is that kind of thing that which we didn't know at the time. So
No. Well,
yeah.
yeah. And they were fascinated by you
Oh
because you'd
really?
been doing your hands and doing the talk, and they'd come out from behind the hill on the top watching. They were like, whoa, you could see their interest
Yeah.
in what is this, what is going on.
Yeah. And then then they what was going on with that? Was it the man or the boy who went first? One of them went, it was the man, wasn't it?
Yeah,
He
the man
went
went,
into the
and
portal
yeah,
and the boy
he
didn't
was
understand, did he?
he didn't, and he was quite frightened.
Mm.
And the man had to come and reach his hand out to pull him up, literally
Mm.
grab him.
Yeah.
because the boy was really terrified. And I think with us being there, it completely had thrown his sense of safety. He was just frightened. And
Yeah.
he was grabbed by his dad and off he shot with his dad
Yeah.
or brother or whoever they were.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is really interesting. But I think, it's hard when you've got sort of uh, probably Neolithic spirits. It's quite hard to speak to them because they don't really know what language they spoke. They think it's something that is from the same root as the area around the Black Sea.
Wow.
So sort of Ukraine, that sort of area,
Gosh,
the same root language, um, sort of
fascinating.
an Albania and that sort of thing. But obviously, thousands of years ago, so they've diverged massively. And it's very specific. It's not related to the other Indo-European languages that you know our language
You know what made me
speaks
laugh?
from.
It's his face of, what am I seeing? And
How
it's a
these
bit like
women do it.
we're standing there going, what is going on? You know, we were like both
Yeah,
thinking the same thing. And he was like, I do not know what that is over there. He was
yeah.
just shocked. And
Well, I
it just
wonder.
made me laugh.
Yeah, see, because they were there first, I wonder if they'd actually come into contact with the barrow-wight before, because they were there first,
Yeah.
potentially not. So there's like
It was
chaos
all
ensuing, happy
yeah.
chaos.
It was
Yeah.
quite I found it bemusing how wide-eyed, and his mouth was just like, what is that?
Agog, I
Yeah,
think is
agog.
the
Good
word.
word.
Yes,
Very good
agog.
word. Yeah.
Um, and but it was interesting how the energy changed as well, didn't it?
Yeah.
Because obviously when the barrow-wight first arrived, there was quite a threatening energy.
Yes.
Then it sort of calmed down, but we still felt like we were, on probation.
Hmm.
Then when the Saxon girl went, there was almost this sense of relief, not
Yeah.
just from the land, from that trauma loop that was
Yeah.
happening, but
Definitely.
also from the Wight himself.
Yes.
Um,
Totally.
yeah. And but then he sort of just went back to where he went, but where he was sort of his
Yeah.
guardian post, almost like a
Yeah.
sentinel post, didn't he? And then these two, this boy and the man, then they went off. And
Mm.
then it was a relief again, but there was still this sense of this sort of unfinished thing.
Yeah.
And we were
Yeah.
almost about to close everything down, weren't we?
Hmm.
And I thought, oh God, what have we forgotten? Because there's
Yeah.
still this sense of like you can feel this energetic presence.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my God, of course. The barrow-wight. The barrow-wight is bound
Mm.
through whatever magic, because that's what made me think that they must have been on the cusp of the pagan to early Christianity crossover, the Saxons,
Hmm.
because, obviously the girl had a cross on her and was a very
Mm.
early Christian, but they'd also used a barrow-wight. So
Hmm.
there's still very much that crossover between the two, the old
Mm.
religion and the new religion there. And and so of course I think I spoke to Archangel Michael because he's very useful with not fae but with energetic beings.
Mm.
Being an energetic being
Hmm.
himself,
Hmm.
he is very useful with other energy beings. And although barrow-wights are almost like created
Mm.
by humans in a way, a bit like an egregore. But also they have like an energetic companion that comes down and it allows them to be created in a way. And so I asked him, didn't I spoke to him and I said,
Mm.
and all this is out loud, by the way,
Mm.
you must always say all these things out loud, even if it's just in a whisper, you know, because we have free will. If you intend something to happen, you must say it aloud, because
Hmm.
if you don't, you know, whoever you're working with, whatever whatever deities you work with or angels or whatever fae, it doesn't matter. They can't make an assumption
Mm.
that what you're thinking is what you want, because as humans we're not particularly good at controlling our thoughts. And controlling our thoughts is something, is almost a lesson that Gwyn ap Nuith
Yeah.
gave me, an ongoing lesson, you know,
Mm.
to learn to have more control
Mm.
over what's happening in my brain
Yeah.
in order to keep a handle on my reality in a way.
Yeah.
And create my reality in the way I
Mm.
think. And this is why negative thinking is really bad. And the
Mm-mm.
certain words you use out loud, you know, is really
It's very
important.
powerful. Words are
Yeah.
magic.
Yeah,
Very powerful.
exactly. But this is exactly why, because if you speak aloud, they know it's an intention. So you'll be
Yeah.
really careful about the sort of things you're saying about yourself and the sort of things you're
Yeah.
wishing on other people aloud as well.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
road rage. Be careful. You know, you might
Yeah.
accidentally
Very.
really cause
That's
problems
very
for
apt
people.
for today with Medusa conjunct the new moon. Road rage is a very good example.
Yes, watch out when you're out. Be
Brilliant.
careful.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, don't lose your head, literally. Um,
Yeah.
and so I asked Archangel Michael, I said, if it's appropriate, now these spirits are gone, especially the Saxon girl that would have been specifically linked, can the barrow-wight leave if it's
Yeah.
appropriate, please? And literally he just shot into the air, didn't he? He
He
was
did.
just
He
gone.
was gone.
Yeah.
And it's interesting when you were saying it was brought on as it wasn't like a being, because I couldn't sense the energy, but I felt it was just all white energy.
Yeah,
And
there's
when he
almost
went, it's
there's almost
weird.
like no soul.
I've never met
Yeah.
that before. Yes, like there's no soul, but there was a
Mm.
vibration of life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he
They're
did.
an
He was gone.
energetic being, like an
Yeah.
angel, but obviously very different abilities and purpose.
Yeah.
And they're partly summoned in and created by humans. So there's a very different, but on a very basic level of understanding, they are an energy being like
And
an
very
alien.
powerful, actually, in their one
Extremely.
energy, or two, whatever it was. They were trying to show me the dimension of their energy.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was gone, like
Yeah.
the fastest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah. Which is nice in a way, because I mean that's the thing when you're doing this sort of work, is making sure that you've cleared everybody who wants to be cleared, because often there are beings that aren't the souls that need to be moved on, that are bound to the land as a result of those beings, sometimes through you know, the negative happenings there, and they've been drawn there. But once the negative thing is gone, they can no longer operate in that space and they're stuck. Quite often you'd associate that sort of thing with you know, negative entities, or dark fae, unseelie fae, but they have as much right as any to be able to leave, you know, and be given love, you know, and often
and it's so hard when, as a human, for me anyway, the fear that I get when I come across these beings. But you've taught me that it is the love and the release, and then I see the beauty. It's almost like the shell of the negativity falls away and you can see the love inside, and it's such a lesson for me as a human being.
Well, we're indoctrinated from a very young age, aren't we, to fear the dark.
Yeah.
And actually there's very, very few dark entities that are genuinely dark. A lot of them are just bound in that presentation,
traumatized
in that presentation,
by it.
Or they're split from their whole, and their light half they can't join up. So, you know,
soul loss, all those sorts of things on all
and
different levels.
It's almost like the ones we've been taught to not show love to are the ones that need it the most, because that's the thing that enables them to transform themselves back into a balanced being. I think that's a whole nother show, isn't it?
And that is what causes the chaos. Yeah, it is. That's the chaos they create.
And it also,
because it's like the Medusa's head, the chaos of being.
Well, that's what cuts off the energy of the land as well, isn't it? That's what disconnects the grid some of the time as well. You know, sometimes it's human, but
causes the trauma.
Yeah. And so,
and I noticed as we walked past the tree, do you remember we looked up to check if that bird was okay? Yes. And then they stopped fighting. This one bird, it all stopped.
Yeah. And
you felt that peace start
Yeah. And I think that's the thing. It's about stepping through the fear, or discerning between whether what is actually happening, whether it is
Yeah.
actually dangerous or whether it
Mm.
is designed to try and scare you off. It's kind of like I always think of it as a kind of a scared or anxious dog. They
Yeah.
will bark and show their teeth because
Yeah.
they are frightened,
Yeah.
not because they are dangerous.
Although
And
they could be if they choose to be.
absolutely, that barrow-wight could have done
Yeah.
a lot of damage if we had been disrespectful
I'm
or
so glad I
trespassing.
didn't know about them before,
You
because I
would have pooed your
in my
pants.
pants.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
people have really come a cropper with barrow-wights because they're an energetic being. They can
Yeah.
do things to your energy, and obviously that can longer term make you ill or make things happen within your
Mhm.
family, negative things happen. So,
Okay.
you have got to be really careful, but they're just there to protect the dignity of a burial.
Yeah.
So,
And she was important, that girl, I believe, from what she was telling
yeah,
me. She's like a princess
yes,
of royalty.
absolutely.
Yeah.
She was. Yeah, I
Yeah.
got that as well.
Mm.
And so after that, we then walked back, didn't we, to have a look
Mm.
around to see what else was going on, because the wood was now full of these celebrating, what are they? Like, they're almost like Ewoks.
Yes, there
The
we go.
20 Ewoks who were
And they
going,
wanted
yay!
honey, didn't they? They were like, woo, but give us some food, honey. And you said honey. And they were like, yeah, really
Yeah,
excited, thinking they were
yeah.
gonna, they were
Which
just
is typical elemental fae.
okay.
Well, I shouldn't call them fae really, because fae is the she and the taller, the humanoid beings. Elemental fairies, um
Yeah.
the very grounded ones that are linked to nature and the land, that
Yeah.
and yeah, they
That's
love a
it.
bit of honey, love it. It's their favorite
Well,
thing.
they were very pleased when you said that.
Yeah.
The absolute
Have
excitement. I
you
must
been
go
back
back
and
and give
given
some
them
there,
some?
actually.
Have you been
I
back and
haven't
given
been
them?
able to, actually, but I'm going to go back. I will. I'll get a
Yeah.
jar of honey.
They didn't want to go, did they? They
Oh,
almost
I've lost
wanted.
you.
And brought back.
Oh, you're back.
Okay.
Yeah.
They wanted their land
Yeah,
back, didn't they? It was almost like all this stuff going on the land had sort of cut off
they
that
did.
section of the woods to them. They
Cut
couldn't,
off. Yeah,
yeah, they couldn't go because
correct.
yeah, the energy, the light energy, the sproul, as I would call it, proper
Yeah,
West country
that's
girl,
it.
a sproul wasn't flowing in that area because of all the stuff going on. And so it almost like gave them a bit of
Because you
their
were so lovely.
life
You
back.
said, do you want to go? And they were like, no, no, we live
Yeah,
here.
yeah,
This is ours. We live here. This is where we belong.
yeah. So they were quite happy about it because they kind of had it all
Mm-mm.
back, didn't they? So then we
Mm.
went over to what is known as the Culliford Tree Barrow because it has got a tree growing out of the middle of it.
It was
Um,
huge, wasn't it?
oh, it's enormous. I mean,
It
they're
was.
like the Sutton Hoo ship burial. They're absolutely massive. And so we went over there and we saw our farmer again, didn't we? Still
Yeah, we
looking
did.
for his
It's
car.
my car.
Yeah. Oh God, that was brilliant. And
Yeah.
so we were sort of looking around, weren't we, to see because there was a real sense of peace now.
Yes.
But there was also a slight sense of unfinished business
Business.
as well. And
Hmm.
certainly Gwyn had rocked up again and was sort of giving me a little poke in the back, like there's
Hmm.
still more. But obviously, we were kind of looking around between these
Yeah.
two barrows, just like,
Mm.
what is it? And because there was definitely no whites or anything like that, it
No.
was very
Very different energy, wasn't
it,
it?
it
Very
it
different.
felt it felt like Iron Age. It felt very much and late Iron Age as well.
Mm.
Almost beyond that, almost into, the almost early post-Roman, I think. It
Roman.
felt
And
it
that was
yeah,
confirmed. Yeah.
yeah, it
We
felt
because
like kind of like Arthur's time. It felt around like the 400s or 500s AD.
oh,
Um,
that's right. He said, didn't he? Because I looked up and there was a guy in a Roman. I was saying there's a man with a leather skirt
mm,
with his helmet, and you said, oh, that's Roman. And he said the date, didn't he? Was it 500? I
Yeah,
remember him
I
saying
think
a
it
date.
was. Oh, yes, I'd forgotten about that. Yes,
Yeah,
he said 500, didn't he? And I was like,
yeah,
I bet that's 500 AD because the
yeah,
Romans would
yeah,
have left. I think it was like 423 AD or something like that. They finally
yeah.
left Britain. So the Romans would have left, but to all intents and purposes, the Britons and the very early invading
Mm,
Angles and Saxons were trying, well, the Britons specifically, the upper echelons of society were trying to maintain the status quo. So
yeah.
they were still using Roman buildings, they were still dressing in the Roman way, largely, the higher end of society.
Hmm.
They were still wanting all the comforts of the Roman,
Mm,
they were trying to hold on
hmm.
to the comfort. And why wouldn't you? They had
Yeah,
underfloor
of
heating for
course.
God's sake and
Yeah, yeah,
toilets. You
yeah.
wouldn't want to go back, would you?
No.
So they were desperately trying to maintain. And that's been proven in archaeology as well, because they've actually found Saxon mosaics
Wow.
where the Saxons were
Wow.
trying to not just carry on living in the existing Roman buildings, but they were trying to actually emulate them in their own building
Hmm.
in the
Hmm.
early stages of it, because it was high status, it was deemed as high
Yeah.
status, and our culture had been changed to see those things as high status, much as
Hmm.
you would nowadays with certain brands, you
Yeah.
know and so it associated you with high status. I would assume, culture is culture,
Makes
isn't it?
sense. Yeah, yeah.
And so yeah, so there was this guy who looked Roman, but he said 500. And so it very much had a sense of, you know, that almost coming, just pre kind of Arthurian kind of
Mm,
times. And he was just standing on the top of the barrow with a big
yeah,
long spear, wasn't he?
yeah. He was just
Yeah.
standing there, and
And
he
I
was
could see
actually
him in my mind's
quite
eye because I
young.
could see the
Yeah,
spear.
yeah.
Yeah.
He was quite young actually, and he'd been put there to guard what was underneath, and he'd been
Yeah.
there for yonks and yonks.
Yeah, I mean, he basically, I wonder whether he was someone who had been, it didn't happen very often, but I wonder if he was someone who had been ritually buried, so had actually been
Yeah,
killed to guard the king.
that's what he
Um,
was there for, and he was
yeah,
not going to move from his post.
no.
No,
So he was
no.
stuck there as well, wasn't
Yeah,
he? And he was like a real job's worth, wasn't it? He was
he
like,
really
Peter
was
says
hard
no.
work.
Yeah.
It was trying to translate, wasn't it? We were trying to
Yeah, because
connect with him.
obviously didn't speak Anglo-Saxon,
Mm,
but he spoke almost like a sort of pidgin Latin, didn't he?
it
It
was.
was like
Mm-mm.
it wasn't classic Latin, it wasn't Roman Latin, it was sort of this weird, um, sort of like colloquial
Well, you
Latin.
managed, didn't you, to
Yeah,
start talking to him?
yeah. I mean, God, I mean, I don't speak Latin, but yeah, he basically was, what do they call it? Pig Latin? Is that what they call it? I'm sure,
Something
no,
like that.
Pig Latin's something
Patois.
else.
Was it a patois of?
Yeah, but it was
Uh,
sort of the equivalent of,
yeah,
yeah, like a local
yeah,
dialect of
yeah,
like
yeah,
this weird crossover
mm,
between, it was almost like a slangy Latin. It was really odd and,
yeah,
way
yeah.
beyond my linguistic capabilities, bless him. So we were trying to
You were doing
explain.
well, though. You were doing
Well,
well.
that's exactly the sort of situation where Gwyn is useful because obviously
Yeah,
Gwyn speaks Brythonic English,
that's
Brythonic,
it. Yeah.
but he also understands Latin. So
Hmm.
he sort of, I was like, Gwyn, you need to come in and help here and explain because, you know, um, it was from a
He
very
was not
similar
shifty, was
time
he?
period. Yeah, from a very
Yeah.
similar time period. And linguistically, he would have had a bit more luck explaining what I
Hmm.
was trying to say. Um, and yeah, so he was a real job's worth, wasn't he? He didn't want to leave because it was his job. He'd been told to stay and guard
And that
it.
was
So
that.
that's what he was going to do.
Yeah,
And we were like, oh my God, but it's like, dude,
yeah.
it's like hundreds of years later. There's nobody else here. Like everyone's clocked off. You can go now. And he was
Yeah.
like,
No,
no, no. Computer says no.
no. And there hadn't been any other thought go across his mind about
If
leaving.
he still
Never even
needed
popped
to be
into it.
there.
No.
Yeah. So then we got talking to him, didn't we? And we were trying to sort of have this three-way conversation through Gwyn and relaying that the king was no longer in charge, that there was a new king.
Yeah, you was trying
And
to tell him he was dead, and he was just
yeah,
looking at you
yeah,
like,
the king's dead.
mm-hmm,
Don't need to, you're off duty now. You've been
Yeah.
relieved of your duties." And he was like, "Nope."
No.
And oh God, what did we end up saying to him?
So
So I
what
ended
you
up
did
having to
was,
tell him, didn't I,
so
that
you opened a portal,
yes,
which he looked at, and it
yeah,
had stairs in, and you were
that
telling him,
scared him, didn't they? He was
yeah,
like, "What the hell is that?"
yeah, he was like, he'd never seen stairs before, and he'd go,
No,
no, no, I'm not going there. That
not
was
touching
like,
them. Yeah,
that's devil or evil or something,
yeah,
whatever
yeah,
it is. And
yeah.
you were trying to explain to him, you were talking with Gwyn to go up, and he was like, absolutely, do not know what that is. So then upstairs sent down a busty woman.
Yes, it was his
I have
right.
never seen that in my life. And some
Yeah,
big busty woman, and he got his attention immediately.
didn't he? He said, "Oh, I miss my wife,"
Yeah.
and
And he was straight up those
yeah,
stairs.
yeah, she was. She had quite a rack, didn't she?
Yeah, she really did. I
Oh
mean, that's
God, it was
all I
almost like
could really
lured
see.
him. Yeah, it was so funny. But he still was like, he was still a bit reluctant, wasn't he? He was like, "Oh, I miss my
Very
wife,
nervous.
but
Yeah,
I'm supposed to be doing this, and
yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
supposed to be." And I ended up sort of basically saying to him that,
The king
you know,
is dead, you were saying.
yeah, the king's dead. There's a new king, and
Yeah,
that, and I was going, "Gwyn,
yeah,
tell him that I'm descended from the kings of Old North. So
yeah.
effectively, I'm in charge." And this guy was going, "What?" And
But,
Gwyn was laughing his head off. And I was like pointing at my engagement ring, going, "Look," just showing
yeah,
I had like an point, and I was wearing the seal sort
yeah,
of
yeah.
thing. And he was like, you could see he was beginning to sort of weaken,
A
wasn't he?
little
He
bit,
was like,
yeah,
"Ah, maybe then, you
yeah.
know." And obviously Gwyn turned up in his like, what are they called? Gwyn's got this helmet that he sometimes wears that is like it's like a Roman cavalry helmet that has evolved. So it's obviously a style that carried on after the Romans left in that
Because he was wearing a
early.
helmet.
Yes. So he was wearing, it begins with G, I can't remember what they're called. He was wearing this kind of Roman cavalry helmet, but with his antlers on. So
Mm.
he looked quite official. I was like, "Wait, put your garb
Mm-mm.
on." So he thinks you're, important. And well, he is important, but you know what I mean? He was more like an emissary. And we were trying to explain that the king is dead and
Yeah,
we've got King Charles III now. And so he doesn't need to guard him. And, and,
it was just
yeah.
the busty woman at the top of the
And then
stairs,
the thing that
and
did
he sort
it
of
was his
tripped on them,
busty
didn't he?
wife. Yeah.
So funny. But it was the stairs. I saw him trying to. He was like, "Okay, I can do this," and he'd fall a bit, but then
He'd
he
never seen
got,
stairs, has he? He just didn't know what to
no,
do. Yeah.
what that devil? It was just like, whoa.
Yeah.
And
Witchcraft stairs.
yeah, and then he was gone with her, and then we were like, okay, weren't we? At the end, it was just like,
Yeah.
because quite a bit of chaos and trying to communicate, and you're
It
saying,
was a
"What's he
tricky one.
doing?" And
Mm.
mm-mm,
It was a
yeah,
really
and
tricky
then it was
one.
all done.
Yeah. Because Gwyn was quite clear that this guy needed to leave, that there was
Mm.
no one there to guard anymore.
There was nothing. It was
Yeah,
just him.
no, everyone else had gone and just left him there.
Poor boy.
Yeah. Because he was only in his 20s,
He was
wasn't he?
very young. He was very
Yeah, he was
young.
very young lad.
Mm-mm.
So anyway, yeah, so he went off. And then we were like, right, okay, well, and I should say that we always close the portal
Mm-mm.
afterwards, straight away afterwards, because you don't want anything going in or out or anything like that. That's a really important part of the
Yeah.
job. But then we kind of looked around, and then we were facing the field of the round barrows. Some of them are a
Mm.
bit like Bulbarrows, aren't they? Some of them have got a little ditch round. And there
Yeah.
was this real lovely, gentle,
Lovely.
feminine
Yeah.
energy
It was
coming off
nice.
of it. I mean, it wasn't like there was none of the angst of all what had been going on with the men
No, I was
before.
like, let's go hang out here. This
Yeah,
is
it
where
was
we belong.
lovely.
It's
But
really nice.
you could see them all just
Women basket
working away.
weaving and
Yeah.
hearing chickens, and it was just very peaceful. It's just lots of women.
Yeah, they were
And I,
grinding corn, weren't they?
oh,
And
it
they were
was
just
nice.
like
Mm-mm.
working together and talking, weren't they?
Yeah.
And just kind of, well, it's typical, isn't it? They were just waiting. I mean, they were obviously stuck there, but they were
Yeah.
waiting in a constructive way.
Way.
Yeah,
Typical.
and they were having a lovely time together,
Yeah.
weren't
It
they?
was a nice vibe.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
there was
Worry or
no of the normal thing you get where there's something to solve. You
Yeah, it
know,
wasn't
you've got to,
warmer.
no, there was nothing to work out. I mean, they
No.
were obviously like the queens and the princesses and stuff like that,
Mm,
or the, the tribe leaders,
yeah.
um, wives or, aunts and whatever. And
Mhm.
and so we didn't even have to really do anything, did we? We just opened a
No.
portal and they were like, oh, at last,
Oh, yeah.
awesome.
They did.
And
They
they
were like,
just
okay.
put their stuff down, didn't they? And just went in
Yeah.
one after the other.
Googled off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there was no haste, there was no reluctance. They
No.
just happily
Yeah.
went
It was
in.
a really nice vibe until at the end I saw that disabled man and I said, oh, there's a disabled man. And he managed to get up and crawl in. And I said to you,
Oh yeah, there
why
was
is
like
there
a
a
crippled
disabled man?
man.
And you told me, because that's why I love working with you, because you can explain what I see. I have to just trust what I see is what
Mm.
is. And you explained to me, what was it about a disabled person being with the women?
So yeah, so in the Neolithic and in the Bronze Age, disabled people, physically disabled
Mm,
people,
you
were
are.
actually venerated. So completely the opposite of our
Mm,
society and culture today, where they get quite a hard time. They actually, or the archaeological evidence points to the fact that people who were physically disabled in some way or disfigured in some way were seen as, well, I suppose much like you get still in certainly other cultures, like Indian culture, if a child is born with missing limbs or extra limbs or
mm,
Siamese twins, or there's probably
mm,
conjoined twins, I shouldn't say that. Oh my God, Jess, conjoined twins.
mm,
God, showing my age, child of the 80s, still using the language. um, they they're venerated as being a gift from the gods, of
yeah.
being like from the god, and that is very much from the archaeology shows
Wow.
that they were buried in a very exalted way, almost like they were seen as having a closer connection
Mm,
to God or the gods, or being somehow divine in some way. And
yeah.
certainly the archaeology supports that people who were physically disabled or disfigured were treated with more respect. And actually, people with disabilities that
Mm,
we would assume would not have survived to adulthood at that time
mm,
lived into adulthood and old
yeah.
age because the whole society rallied round them
Yeah.
to enable them to live a worthwhile life and keep them alive. And just extraordinary, wonderful attitude towards it.
Beautiful. Yeah.
There's certainly indications it's because they believed that disabled people were somehow more divine than themselves.
Well, it was because you always say, have they all gone through? Have you seen everyone gone through? And it's when this man popped up and I
Mm.
knew he couldn't walk his limbs. He was so thin. He had no muscle tone. And he was the last one to get, and he was so pleased that he could move.
Mm.
Not in a, I've been in such an awful place. It was more of a, oh, I can move up the stairs. And I said, oh, yes, he's gone through now. And then you you close it all down, don't you? And make sure that
It
everybody's
was
out.
interesting he was with the women, I thought,
Yeah,
because there
but
was
it's
no
just
other
how he
men in that
popped up at
cemetery.
the end.
Yeah.
Right at the end, this old man, and I was like, oh, what? Hang on a minute, why is there a man? Because I thought it was all women.
Well, because the women they were quite Iron Agey, weren't they? They were maybe even, yeah, they were quite Iron Agey, kind of late Bronze Age, but maybe he was older. Maybe that's why he came
He
out
was
last,
quite
because he was
old.
like a lower layer. Maybe he was, because that's the side where the Neolithic um
He was
where
very
he's
tall
buried with. Yeah.
and skin. No, as I said, no muscle on him. Very thin.
Mm.
And I could see he'd been lying down in his life, and people would just feed him,
Yeah.
and it's just
Yeah.
yeah. And it was
Wonderful,
just
isn't it?
he was the
They got
last to go through. There was quite a few of them, weren't there? We were like, oh, you
Yeah,
was
there's
you were
lots
saying,
of women.
yeah,
Yeah. And I think that our society has a lot to learn from
yeah.
theirs, in that how they treat people who are vulnerable,
It was such
definitely.
a nice energy, wasn't it?
Mm.
I was saying to you, come on, let's hang out with this lot. They're
Yeah, weren't they nice?
got it.
There was a temptation for us to go and join them instead of
Yeah,
us sending them off. The
yeah.
women were so
So peaceful and
lovely.
nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
I liked it.
Um, yeah, and then everything was shut up and
Yeah.
closed then, and there was just this. this kind of silent
Yeah,
peacefulness, wasn't there?
just
Just
yeah,
nothing.
it's just
Yeah.
grass and trees and
Mm.
a bit of wind.
And you could almost feel the sproul kind of encroaching back in. It was almost like,
Yeah,
oh, we can flow through this again
like
now.
all the noise had gone, hadn't it? It just
Yeah. It was like undamming a
mm-mm.
river or a stream. It wasn't
Yeah,
coming in a rush, but you could feel this
coming,
trickle
moving.
of
Yeah,
energy coming.
yeah, yeah. It
Yeah.
was nice.
Yeah. So
And
that was
then I
tricky.
wasn't. And then when we left, it was like, well, I don't need to be here. You just feel you just don't want to be
Yeah.
there anymore.
Time to
That you're
go.
not
Done.
such a magnet anymore. That space.
Oh, I tell you what we've forgotten to say, actually. It was
Yeah,
when we moved on the guy with that was the Jobsworth with his spear
yeah.
that didn't want to go because the king had told him and he was staying there.
Mm,
Um, after we'd managed to get our way through, because obviously he's speaking pidgin Latin,
yeah,
after, after we'd managed to convey to him what needed to happen and how he could go
yeah,
and work that all through with him. So he agreed to go.
yeah.
Um, Gwyn said something like, "Well done," and did like a little round of applause, didn't he?
Because you said that to me,
Yeah.
and I was like, because obviously I can't hear Gwyn.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
uh,
sometimes you can, can't you? Sometimes.
but when he's talking, working with you,
Yeah.
I can't. He's
Yeah.
he's appeared to me separately, which has quite
Yeah.
scared the life out of me. But anyway, um, but yeah, he was really to you. Good job's worth. It was really,
Yeah, it was like,
really
"Well
proud
done,
of you.
girl." Yeah.
Yeah, very good.
It's very funny. He's got
Yeah,
this like sort of yeah, it's like, I don't
it
know,
was
dad's
he
army.
was sticky, wasn't he? He just wasn't going to go.
Oh no, that was really tricky. And that's why, and sometimes it's not tricky because of trauma. Sometimes it's tricky because of that. They're like, no, this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, and
And
that's
I've been
that.
told this, and that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah,
And so, yeah, it's kind of like, people have all different ways of doing this work, but ultimately you're a bit like an investigative, detective.
definitely,
You're a bit
definitely.
like a counselor.
Yeah,
And obviously then there's the actual psychopompery as well.
yeah. And it's just lovely that what I see you can explain. You have so much knowledge. It's so helpful because it helps them because you understand,
Yeah.
their sort of their era. Because if we come across and talk to them from our era, freak them out completely. We think very differently to how these stuck beings think because they've had less influence from the
Yeah.
outside world.
Well, you've got to meet them where they are,
Yeah,
haven't you? And you've
yeah,
got to understand because, obviously once they've gone through into the light,
mm,
they get all the knowing back. They
yeah,
understand everything that's going
yeah,
on and why what's happened has happened to them and all the information that they
mm,
need to be at peace. But if they're stuck or they're refusing to leave for whatever reason, you're negotiating with another human and they
yeah.
don't have to do what you've asked them to
No,
do or they don't have to listen to your explanation,
mm-mm.
so it can be if it can be really tricky and
Negotiation.
and it's
Yes,
fine. Some people don't want to go, they want
no.
to stay. That's absolutely fine, no
But
problem
Gwen
at
had
all.
said to you he needed to go, didn't he? So
Yeah,
that,
Gwyn was
yeah,
very clear
yeah,
that there was no need for him to
to
be
be
there
there.
and that it would be, if he didn't go with us, he was just going to be there forever,
Yeah,
basically.
for
Um,
no reason whatsoever.
well, no,
He
I
was
mean, he'd already been there for like, I don't know,
a long time,
70, yeah, what, at least
very long.
1,500 years. Yeah, at least, so if not more. So,
Yeah,
doing what? Guarding an empty mound, because there was a dip in it, wasn't there?
yeah.
Like it had been
Somebody
plundered.
had dug it. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So what's he doing then? He's just standing in a field when he could be,
yeah.
reunited with his wife and his soul family.
Which he
You know?
was, and it was lovely. And it's really interesting once we've done all of that. It that magnet. I always call it a magnet energy. I get pulled towards parts of areas. It was just gone. It's like it's somewhere you just drive through next time. You wouldn't feel so drawn to stop and go in.
Yeah. And there was this real kind of like, right, let's go to the beach.
Let's go to the beach then.
That
Okay,
was it.
then let's be us humans going to the beach.
Yeah.
And nice walk.
And this, God, so funny. But this is a normal life for us, isn't it? This is the
Yeah.
sort of stuff that happens when we're just trying to go to the beach for a walk.
Yeah.
And actually, our next podcast is about what happened when we went to the beach, because typical us, when we got there, it wasn't just a normal walk.
No.
So I hope that you enjoyed our first episode of our podcast, and episode 2 is coming up.